The night had just begun to stretch its dark velvet over the hills of Thursina Camping Bogor when we finally zipped open the tent and looked out to a world bathed in twilight. The air was sharp yet soothing, carrying that clean scent of wet grass and pine mixed with a faint aroma of smoke from distant bonfires. We had spent the whole day exploring the slopes, taking photos, and preparing firewood for the night ahead. Now, as the sky deepened into shades of indigo and black, the stars slowly revealed themselves. First a few, timidly twinkling, then an entire river of light flowing above the campsite. It felt like the mountain had fallen asleep, leaving only us and the whispers of wind dancing through the leaves. Everyone spoke in quieter tones now, as if the universe itself demanded silence. The chirping of crickets filled the spaces between our words, and the gentle crackle of the campfire became the heartbeat of our little world. There was magic in that silence, a kind of peace that could never be found in the city. Thursina's hills stood like shadows watching over us, ancient and unmoving, while we, tiny and temporary, sat in awe, alive in the moment. The campfire grew taller, its flames licking the cool air and painting our faces in orange and gold. I remember sitting cross-legged with a cup of hot coffee in hand, the steam swirling like smoke signals to the stars. Around me, laughter rippled softly, friends teasing one another, telling ghost stories, or quietly staring into the fire as if searching for memories buried deep inside. The night carried a rhythm of its own. Time seemed to slow. Breaths became deeper and thoughts drifted far. The cold began to bite, but no one wanted to retreat to their tents just yet. Someone pulled out a guitar, and soon the chords of an old song floated into the night, blending with the hum of the forest. Even the mountains seemed to listen. The glow of the flames flickered against our jackets, our eyes reflecting both the light and the unspoken emotions of the evening. Freedom, gratitude, and connection. Thursina wasn't just a campsite tonight. It was a living, breathing story written in laughter, warmth, and the soft rhythm of nature's pulse. At some point, I looked up and lost myself in the vastness above. The Milky Way was clearly visible, stretching from one edge of the horizon to the other like a bridge between dreams. The stars weren't just dots of light. They felt like whispers from eternity, reminding us of how small and fleeting we truly are. A friend beside me whispered, "It's so quiet it feels like the stars could hear us." I smiled, not answering, just listening. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, and far beyond, the faint hum of a motorcycle echoed through the valley before fading into nothingness. It was the perfect kind of quiet, not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace. I took another sip of my coffee, now lukewarm, and felt a deep calm settle inside me, the kind that only comes when you stop trying to control time and simply exist. The fire crackled again, the wind brushed against the tent walls, and I thought, if heaven had a sound, it would be this night in Thursina. Midnight arrived softly, announced not by a clock, but by the drop in temperature and the deepening stillness of the forest. We gathered closer to fire, our voices lowering into murmurs, our blankets pulled tighter. The smell of roasted corn filled the air, and the sweet, smoky taste lingered on our tongues. Someone started telling a story about a traveler who got lost in these very woods years ago, a local legend. We listened, half believing, half dreaming, the shadows and the flames dancing across our faces like ghosts of the past. When the punchline came, everyone laughed, breaking the spell. It was strange how the mountains seemed to hold both mystery and warmth in the same breath. The stars above shimmered brighter, as if applauding our joy. I leaned back, rested my head against a cold rock, and closed my eyes for a moment. The world spun slower here. Every heartbeat, every flicker of the fire, every rustle in the grass felt meaningful, as though nature itself was speaking in a language only the soul could hear. Far away, a mist began to rise from the valley, wrapping the lower trees in silver. The moon, high and clear, hung like a guardian lantern above Thursina's peak. Its light fell gently on the tents, the sleeping bags, the faces of those who had already dozed off near the fire. The rest of us whispered quietly, our conversation wandering from childhood dreams to the meaning of peace. Every now and then, a shooting star would cut across the sky, and someone would gasp softly, making a wish. I didn't make any. I felt like I already had what I needed. The mountain breeze, the sound of laughter, the friends around me. This was enough. The kind of moment that doesn't demand anything more, because it's already complete. I remember thinking, someday when I'm far from here, I'll close my eyes and remember this night exactly as it was. The colors, the sounds, the warmth, and the quiet. Around 1 a.m, the fire began to fade, turning from fierce orange to soft embers. The sound of guitar strings had long gone silent, replaced by gentle breathing and the occasional crack of cooling wood. I stood up and stretched, my body stiff from sitting too long on the cold ground. The grass was wet with dew, and when I walked away from the camp, my shoes made a soft crunching sound. I went a little uphill, just enough to see the full view of the campsite from above. From there, it looked like a tiny constellation on Earth, each tent a glowing shape, each fire a star fallen to rest. Beyond that, the outline of Bogor stretched like a sleeping city, its lights twinkling in the distance. The night air brushed my face, and I breathed it in deeply, feeling alive in a way that only happens when you are surrounded by nature and silence. It was beautiful, too beautiful to be captured by any camera or words. When I returned to the camp, most of my friends were already asleep, their faces calm and peaceful in the dim glow of the remaining embers. I crawled into my tent, zipped it closed, and lay down, still listening to the sound of the night. The insects, the occasional rustle of the wind, and the far-off cry of an owl. My sleeping bag was warm, and my body finally began to relax. Yet, even as sleep pulled me closer, part of my mind stayed awake, aware of the stars still shining beyond the thin layer of fabric above me. I imagine the universe looking down at us, tiny humans sleeping under its vastness, dreaming our little dreams while it continued to spin endlessly. There was something deeply humbling about that thought. I drifted to sleep with a smile, knowing that this night would stay with me for a long, long time. The dream I had that night felt almost real. I was walking through the same forest, but it was glowing. Every tree, every rock, every blade of grass shining faintly as if made of moonlight. The sound of a stream echoed somewhere nearby, and I followed it barefoot, feeling the cold earth beneath my feet. When I reached the water, I saw my reflection, but it wasn't just me. It was the faces of everyone who had shared that night together. We were laughing, singing, existing as one with the world around us. Then, slowly, the image faded, replaced by the flicker of a campfire again. I woke up, realizing that the dream was just another way the mountain spoke to me. Thursina had given us more than just a place to camp. It had given us a piece of itself, something spiritual and timeless. Dawn was still hours away, but the horizon had already started to lighten slightly. I unzipped the tent quietly and stepped outside. The fire was almost gone now, just a few glowing coals in the ash. The mist was thicker, the air colder, and the silence even deeper. I sat on a rock and watched as the stars began to fade one by one. A soft blue hue began to touch the edges of the sky. Behind me, the camp was still asleep, peaceful and undisturbed. I felt a deep gratitude for the mountain, for the night, for the people I shared it with. Nights like this are rare in life. They don't shout, they whisper. They leave marks not on the skin, but on the soul. Thursina had whispered to me all night, and I listened. When the first light of dawn finally touched the peak, I smiled. The cold no longer mattered. The lack of sleep no longer mattered. The world had shifted into something golden, and the night's memories glowed quietly within me. Thursina Puncak Bogor, with all its quiet hills and starlit skies, had become more than just a place. It had become a feeling, a story, a rhythm I would carry forever. I knew that someday I'd come back here, maybe years later, to chase that same silence again. But for now, as the camp began to stir and sleepy faces emerged from the tents, I whispered a silent thank you. to the stars, to the wind, to the mountain, for a night that felt infinite. The air was crisp when the first rays of morning touched the peaks, spilling gold and silver across the landscape. Thursina Camping Ground was awakening, shaking off the night's cool mist like a creature of light. The forest began to stir, birds breaking into soft chirps, the leaves whispering again as the wind shifted direction. I stood there, still wrapped in my jacket, feeling the warmth of the rising sun slowly chase away the chill from my hands. The smell of morning dew filled my lungs, sharp yet refreshing. I could still see traces of campfire smoke rising lazily, mingling with the mist that rolled between the trees. Behind me, I heard the slow rustle of zippers as my friends began to crawl out of their tents, stretching, yawning, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Some were smiling already, greeting the morning with sleepy voices. It was beautiful, this quiet, this togetherness. We didn't need words to describe what we felt. It was all there in the glow of our faces, in the way we looked out toward the horizon where the sky was turning into fire. Thursina was alive, and so were we. We gathered near the fire pit again, relighting it with the leftover wood, letting the flames dance weakly against the pale light of dawn. Someone brewed another pot of coffee, its aroma cutting to the cold air like a comforting memory. The smoke curled upward, catching the sunlight and forming golden ribbons that shimmered in the breeze. There was laughter now, soft, genuine laughter born from shared fatigue and simple joy. The sound of boiling water, the clinking of mugs, the crackle of fire. It all became a kind of symphony, the soundtrack of a morning that felt purer. A friend handed me a mug, and I wrapped my fingers around it, savoring the warmth. The first sip was bliss. The mountains seemed to hum quietly with us, a low rhythm of peace and renewal. It was strange how something so ordinary, a cup of coffee at dawn, could feel sacred. The air tasted of pine, smoke, and new beginnings. As the sun climbed higher, the mist began to fade, revealing the vast rolling hills that surrounded Thursina. It was breathtaking, the layers of green stretching endlessly, dotted with patches of sunlight and shadow. From where we stood, we could see small trails weaving between the trees, leading deeper into the forest. Some of us talked about exploring them later, just to see where they went. But for now, everyone was content just watching. The sky was turning into that perfect shade of blue that only mountain mornings have, clear, endless, and alive. I felt my heart swell with gratitude. We often chase grand adventures, but sometimes the best ones are found in the quiet moments when we simply stand still and breathe. Thursdayina wasn't loud, it wasn't crowded, it wasn't commercial. It was raw, honest nature, untouched by noise. Every breeze that brushed against my face felt like a whisper from the earth, saying, "You belong here." After breakfast, we packed away some of our gear but left the tent standing, planning to stay until the afternoon. The ground was soft beneath our feet, damp from the night, and every step released the earthy scent of soil and grass. We decided to take a short hike to the nearby ridge, a spot the locals called Puncak. Even though it was morning, the path wound through tall ferns and narrow clearings where sunlight filtered through the canopy in spears of gold. Birds darted between branches, their songs echoing in the cool air. As we climbed higher, the view opened wider, the valley below shimmering with leftover mist. Every few steps, someone would stop to take pictures or just stand in silence. There was something sacred about the way the mountain revealed itself slowly, as if rewarding our patience. The sound of laughter, footsteps, and the crunch of leaves under our boots blended into a rhythm that felt ancient, almost ceremonial. At the ridge, we found a wide rock plateau overlooking the valley. The view was unreal. Clouds drifted lazily across the peaks, and sunlight spilled like molten gold over the trees. We stood there for a long time, saying nothing. It was as if words would only cheapen what we saw. The world below looked peaceful, untouched by time. I remember closing my eyes for a second and listening. The distant rustle of bamboo, the gentle hum of wind, the soft sigh of the earth. In that silence, I felt something inside me expand. It wasn't excitement, nor even happiness. It was presence, pure presence. Thursdayina had this power, this ability to dissolve the chaos of everyday life until all that remained was what truly mattered. The moment. I think everyone felt it too. When I opened my eyes again, someone whispered, "This is what freedom feels like." I nodded. Yes, it was. The sun rose higher, warming our faces as we sat on the rocks, eating snacks and talking about everything and nothing. Someone played a song from a speaker, soft acoustic notes that blended perfectly with the wind. It wasn't loud, just enough to give our laughter a gentle background. A few clouds began to gather, but the air stayed clear. We took turns taking photos, trying to capture the view, but deep down we all knew the pictures would never do it justice. Cameras can record light, but not feeling. Thursdayina wasn't just seen, it was felt. The texture of the rock under our hands, the faint taste of salt on our lips from the sweat climb, the rhythm of the mountain breeze brushing past us. All of it combined into a sensory memory that would live far longer than any image on a screen. By noon, the light had turned softer, and the valley shimmered under the mid-morning haze. We started our way back to camp, retracing the trail in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. The forest looked different now, warmer, brighter, alive with the buzz of insects and the occasional flutter of butterflies. Every sound seemed amplified: the rustle of leaves, the crunch of our boots, the distant laughter of another group somewhere below. Thursina had woken fully now, and it felt as though the entire mountain was breathing along with us. When we reached the campsite, our fire had gone out completely, leaving only a circle of ash and a faint smell of smoke. The tent stood proudly against a bright blue sky, colorful and familiar. I dropped my bag, stretched, and smiled. The night had given us silence. The morning gave us renewal. Together, they made the perfect balance. We spent the rest of the morning sharing stories, some deep and personal, others silly and filled with laughter. The mountain seemed to draw honesty out of us, perhaps because up there, surrounded by nature, there was no need for masks. People spoke about their fears, their dreams, their memories. We listened, really listened, the way people rarely do in everyday life. It was beautiful, this unspoken connection that Thursina created among us. The mountain didn't just give us a place to camp. It gave us a reason to open up, to connect. The sound of conversation mixed with the occasional chirp of a bird or the rustle of the wind through the trees. The air was still cool, though the sun was getting warmer. Time felt suspended, stretched between the fading echoes of night and the brightness of day. Eventually, someone suggested cooking lunch before packing up. We gathered our supplies and built another small fire, careful not to leave a mark when we were done. The smell of grilled noodles and fried eggs soon filled the air, blending with the earthy scent of the forest. It wasn't fancy food, but it tasted incredible, simple, warm, comforting. As we ate, we talked about how we'd miss this place, how the city would feel too loud, too fast after this. Thursina had slowed us down, reminded us how to breathe again. The sound of sizzling pans, the laughter of friends, the occasional cry of an eagle circling above. It all became a song of farewell, a gentle rhythm that seemed to say, "Remember this." time finally came to take down the tent, a bittersweet silence fell over the camp. The ground where we had slept was marked only by flattened grass and the faint imprint of our presence. We cleaned up carefully, leaving nothing behind except the memory of our night under the stars. As I looked around one last time, I felt a tug in my chest, a longing to stay, to live just one more night under that vast sky. But mountains teach you something important. Nothing lasts forever, and that's what makes moments precious. Thursina Camping Ground had given us a gift, one that couldn't be taken away. As we shouldered our bags and began walking down the path, I turned back once more. The wind moved through the trees, almost like a wave goodbye. I whispered softly, "See you again," and in that moment, I knew I would return. The trail that led down from the campsite was narrow, flanked by tall wildflowers swaying in the breeze. The scent of damp soil and sun-warmed grass followed us as we made our way down, our footsteps light, our hearts heavy. No one spoke much at first. It wasn't sadness. It was the kind of silence that comes after something sacred, when words feel too small to carry the weight of what you just experienced. The sun was high now, pouring its golden light through the canopy, creating a mosaic of brightness and shade on the forest floor. Every now and then, someone would stop, turn around, and glance back at the mountain peak we had left behind. Thursina stood tall and serene, as if watching us go, as if knowing we'd return someday. The sound of cicadas filled the air, their rhythmic hum echoing like a heartbeat. For a moment, it felt like the mountain itself was breathing with us, exhaling as we descended, its final farewell wrapped in sunlight and wind. As we reached a clearing halfway down, the valley opened up in front of us, stretching endlessly in soft green layers. A small river sparkled in the distance, winding through the trees like a silver ribbon. We decided to rest there, setting down our bags and taking a few deep breaths. The view was stunning. Bogor lay far below, hazy and shimmering under the midday sun. I remember lying down on the grass, eyes closed, feeling the warmth seep into my skin. The mountain breeze brushed against my face, and for a second, I imagined it was whispering stories of the night we had just lived. The laughter, the songs, the glow of the fire, it all replayed in my mind like scenes from a film I never wanted to end. One of my friends softly hummed the tune we had sung the night before, and soon a few others joined in. It wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it echoed to the clearing like a memory reborn. Finally continued our descent. The sun had begun its slow tilt toward the west. The shadows grew longer, painting the path in streaks of light and shade. We passed by a cluster of bamboo trees that swayed gently, their tall stalks clacking softly in the wind. The sound reminded me of rain, rhythmic and calming. I thought about how easily time had passed up there, how night had melted into morning and morning into day, without us ever noticing the clock. That's what Thursina did. It freed you from the burden of time. It let you exist without counting the hours. As we walked, I realized how rare that feeling was in the world we came from, where everything demanded urgency. The mountain had slowed us down to the rhythm of nature, and I didn't want to lose that rhythm, even after returning home. We reached a small wooden bridge that crossed a shallow stream. The water was crystal clear, dancing over smooth stones, carrying fallen leaves downstream like tiny boats. Without hesitation, a few of us took off our shoes and stepped into the water. It was icy cold, shocking at first, then refreshing beyond words. We laughed, splashing each other, our voices echoing through the trees. The simple joy of that moment, the touch of water, the sound of laughter, the glint of sunlight on wet skin, felt eternal. Sometimes happiness doesn't come from grand experiences, but from these small, pure acts of being alive. Thursina had reminded us of that too. We stayed there longer than planned, unwilling to let go. The stream seemed to carry away our worries, washing them downstream into oblivion. By the time we reached the base of the mountain, the sun was already dipping low, its golden rays slicing through the mist that had begun to gather again. Thursina was slowly wrapping itself in its evening veil, ready for another night under the stars. Looking up from below, the campsite we had left seemed distant, almost unreal, like a dream fading at dawn. But the feelings remained, the serenity, the laughter, the quiet awe. It's strange how a place can become part of you so quickly. We had only spent one night there, yet it felt like we had lived an entire lifetime in those few hours. Our clothes smelled faintly of smoke, our hair carried the scent of pine, and our hearts were heavy with the sweetness of goodbye. The mountain didn't just host us, it changed us. We loaded our bags into the car, each of us taking one last look at the peaks. The road that wound away from Thursina was lined with tea plantations, their neat green rows glowing under the amber light of sunset. The car moved slowly, and no one played music. We didn't need to. The silence was filled with meaning. I watched the mountain shrink in the rear-view mirror until it became just a silhouette against the sky. A deep sense of gratitude settled inside me, a kind of quiet promise that I would return. Thursina had become more than a place to visit. It had become a compass, pointing me back to what truly matters: peace, simplicity, and connection. As we reached the outskirts of Bogor town, the sound of the city began to return. Cars, horns, and distant chatter. Yet, somehow, everything felt softer, less intrusive. It was as if the mountain's calm still lingered inside us, forming a protective layer between our spirits and the noise of daily life. I glanced at my friends. They were smiling, tired but content. One of them leaned against a window, eyes half closed, whispering, "Feels like we left part of ourselves up there." I nodded. Maybe we had. Maybe that's what the mountain does. It keeps a fragment of your soul, a small offering for the peace it gives you in return. That night, back at home, the world felt different. My bed was soft, my room warm, but part of me missed the chill of the mountain air, the rough ground beneath the tent, the quiet hum of nature surrounding everything. I lay there in the dark, replaying every sound, the crackling of the fire, the laughter, the wind brushing past the tents, the faint strumming of the guitar. It was strange how vividly it all came back. I closed my eyes, and for a moment, I could almost smell the smoke again, see the stars above Thursina's ridge, and feel the warmth of friendship that filled the night. It wasn't nostalgia, it was gratitude. Some moments in life don't fade. They live inside you like gentle echoes. The next morning, I woke up early, instinctively looking for the sunrise. I opened my window, and though I was far from the mountain, the sky carried the same golden hue that we had witnessed at Thursina. The air was different, denser, warmer, but still, for a few seconds, I felt that same calm. I made a cup of coffee, sipped it slowly, and smiled. It wasn't as good as the one brewed over a campfire, but it carried the same comfort. That's when I realized something profound. The peace I found at Thursina wasn't bound to that place. It was something I could carry with me anywhere, as long as I remembered how to pause, how to breathe, how to be still. Thursina had not just given me memories, it had taught me how to live. In the days that followed, the rhythm of daily life returned. Emails, traffic, deadlines, they all came rushing back. But underneath it all, there was a stillness that hadn't been there before. Every time I felt overwhelmed, I would close my eyes and imagine the mountain, the starlit sky, the laughter, the sound of the wind brushing through pine leaves. And suddenly, the noise of the world didn't feel so heavy anymore. Thursina had become my quiet refuge, even from afar. It wasn't just a place to visit. It was a feeling, a reminder that peace is always within reach if we choose to slow down and listen. The mountain had spoken to me through silence, and I would never forget its voice.